Good morning, dear students. So, today we will study the chapter 1 of physics, and that is motion. So, what is motion? You have studied it in lower classes as well. Motion is the phenomenon of change of position of an object, right? You know this very well. So, in this chapter, you will study about motion in a little more detail. Fine. So, I'll start with a brief introduction. First is physical quantities. All those quantities that can be measured are known as physical quantities. For example, speed, force, etc. You can measure the speed of a moving car, right? So it's a physical quantity. You can measure the force that you are applying on an object. So it's again a physical quantity. Now tell me, can you say that a light is a physical quantity or sound is a physical quantity? Obviously not. You cannot say that sound is a physical quantity, but intensity of sound is a physical quantity. You can measure its intensity. You can measure the wavelength of sound. So wavelength of sound is a physical quantity, but sound is not a physical quantity. Similarly for light, intensity of light is physical quantity, but light cannot be considered as physical quantity. Now, there are two types of physical quantities. First is scalar and second is vector. So, scalar quantities are those quantities that can be described completely by magnitude alone. For example, length, mass, time, temperature. Now, I will explain you this in a little more detail. So, if somebody asks you what is the temperature at your place, you will directly say that it's 25 degrees Celsius, right? You will not mention the direction. Fine. Now, if somebody is asking you what is the time, you will directly say it's 9 o'clock or it's 4 o'clock. You will not mention the direction. Fine. So, all those quantities in which direction is not relevant are known as scalar quantities. Coming to the vector quantities, these quantities are described by magnitude as well as direction. So consider the case of force. Now consider I have a door here, okay? And now you have to open this door. You are pushing it again and again, but this door is not getting opened. Why? Because the door says pull. How will it get opened if you are pushing it, if it is saying to pull, right? So force is a vector quantity because in this case the direction is relevant. Okay. Now consider this pen. Okay. I need to find the length of this pen. Okay. Now if somebody asks you what is the length of the pen, you will directly say it's 10 centimeter or 11 centimeter. Will you mention the direction? No, right? If I'm measuring the length like this or if I'm measuring the length like this, in both the cases the length will come out to be 10 centimeter only. There is no change in the length if I am changing the direction of the pen's cap, right? So length is a scalar quantity. I hope you have understood the difference between scalar and vector quantities. So, next, mechanics. So, this chapter falls under the category of mechanics. Mechanics is basically the branch of physics that deals with the study of motion of object. So, this chapter will fall under mechanics. There are so many branches of physics which you will come to know later on. Now, coming to the difference between distance and displacement. Distance is the total path length covered by an object. Now, consider the case an object is traveling from point A to point B to point C. Distance between A to B is 3 and from B to C is 2 kilometers. Total distance covered will be AB plus BC and that is 5 kilometers. Okay. So distance in this case is 5 kilometers. Now consider this. An object is traveling from A to B in a straight line and then it takes a turn towards C. And I have mentioned the distances between AB and BC. Okay. So here also the total distance covered is 5 kilometers. But now the new concept is the concept of displacement. Displacement is the separation between the initial and final positions of the object. Initial position means the point from which the object starts, and the final means you all know the final position where the object goes to the rest. Okay, so in this case the displacement will be the separation between initial and final points, and that is AC. Now consider if this is a 90-degree angle, you can calculate AC by Pythagoras theorem. So it will come out to be under root 13 kilometers. So have you got the difference between distance and displacement? Now distance is a scalar quantity whereas displacement is a vector quantity. How will you explain this? You can take these examples again. Here the object is making the straight line motion. Here the object first makes straight line motion and then it turns. Firstly the object is moving straight and again it at point B it makes a turn. Fine. So here in both the cases distance covered is 5 kilometer. Whereas in this case with the change in direction the displacement changes. Fine. So the quantity that is changing with the change in direction is displacement only. Therefore displacement is the vector quantity. Now take the case of a loop motion. Suppose this is a circular path and O is the center of the circle. Object starts from point A and it moves on the circumference and comes back to point A. Here both initial and final positions are point A. So the initial and final positions are coinciding. That's why the displacement will become 0, because initial and final positions are coinciding. Now take the case of any closed loop motion. This is a random motion made by an object. Object starts from A and comes back to point A. In this case also the displacement will be 0. Fine. So displacement can be 0 but distance cannot be 0. Okay. Displacement can be 0 only in the case where initial and final positions are coinciding. So that's it for today. I will send you the next part soon. Thank you.